The words equal protection were added to the Constitution in 1868 with the 14th Amendment, equal protection of the laws. And I think that the debate started immediately about what it meant. There were those who fought for the 14th Amendment and fought for Reconstruction, who believed that equal protection was a command of one society, that we all had to be together, and the Supreme Court finally came around to that view in Brown versus Board of Education.
It's called the Achievement Gap, and the news for Wisconsin is grim.
When it comes to closing the achievement gap between white and minority students, Minnesota has struggled.
While more high school students are taking AP courses than ever before, the amount of diversity in those classes has not kept pace.
Closing achievement gaps in reading and math.
Forcing a bigger wedge between the haves and the have-nots.
We've still got too many high schools where a third of their students do not earn their diplomas on time. For too many students in America, zip code still determines how far they'll go.
It's happening everywhere. Nationally, it's happening countywide, it's happening in our school.
The common language is achievement gap. And when you look at the achievement gap, that puts the onus of responsibility on these students that are not achieving. So you have that gap between whites and Asians, mostly Black and Latino. There's that gap with their grades, grade point average, etc. And what the achievement gap says is that these students are not doing what they should be, or they could be doing better to perform in class. The opportunity gap is more of a sociological issue. So the opportunity gap looks at structural issues that connect to the achievement gap. So when you look at structural issues, you're looking at things that are much broader than what happens in the school, and things that are not just affecting that individual.
It begins with things like health and nutrition.
You're looking at neighborhoods, segregation within neighborhoods.
Economic disadvantages, things like not being able to afford a tutor.
You're looking at implicit bias and racism within the institutions. So the opportunity gap looks at much broader issues, much more sociological than just the individual. We want to make sure that the students understand that there are much bigger issues than just you sitting in that one seat in that one class.
The Supreme Court has not aggressively enforced the equal protection command in the context of equal spending on people's public educations. A case called San Antonio versus Rodriguez, which came after Brown versus Board of Education, the Supreme Court rejected an attack on Texas's property tax-based system of financing public schools, and that was a system that greatly benefited kids who happened to go to schools in wealthy communities and wealthy neighborhoods, and really disadvantaged kids who went to schools in poorer communities and poorer neighborhoods. But the Supreme Court said that as long as you're getting some kind of education, you can't complain.
Schools in America are financed primarily by local property taxes. The local property tax depends on the worth, the value of local homes and businesses.
The Equal Protection Clause doesn't really protect education at all, that there is no fundamental constitutional right to education, much less an equally financed education.
I immediately call attention to the problem of the unequal distribution of resources. Or if you want to be fancy about it, you can talk about unequal access to the forms of capital that support educational achievement.
And I think once you understand the big picture, you can see yourself in that picture, and you can look at the challenges and how complex this is.
I know my peers, Hispanic and African Americans, us minorities, have a disadvantage simply because of our resources that we don't have. This is an issue that definitely needs to be taken down by us minorities, because simply we got to rise ourselves up. We got to support each other. We always got to be there.
So MSP, which stands for the Minority Scholars Program, is a club that was founded in order to bridge the achievement gap.
It is an organization based on social justice. That is the crux of what we do.
The majority of the school is minorities, so it's important that we help these minorities achieve and help them be the best they can be.
So we want to get more students of color in AP courses.
Doing things like tutoring kids at middle schools for free, which is something you don't get often.
If you need help with like the college process, or if you need help with FAFSA.
We want to create a safe environment for students to talk and discuss and to come up with solutions for problems, not only talk about problems.
Because we all have a part to play in making sure every single child has every single opportunity to achieve his or her dreams.